Today I'm welcoming Nick Hoffman, who is the host for this Renku, Eric Nicholson, Joshua Sinclair, Lorraine Padden, Richard Bailey and Sherry Grant to the podcast to read not just the Renku, but also some of their own poetry for us. But I have to say a little something to Laughing Waters, who was also involved in the Renku but wasn't able to come and be with us today because she's not very well. And we wish you well and hope by the time this podcast goes out, you're feeling very much better. Before we hear the Renku, Drinking Moonrise, I'd really like to introduce the poets and hear some of their original work. So welcome, poets, and we'll start with Eric Nicholson. Eric, would you like to read us your poem?
Matching our footsteps, a nightingale's sudden song. We step out of time. Matching our footsteps, a nightingale's sudden song. We step out of time. Thanks,
Eric. Is that a new piece or was that already published somewhere?
Yes, it's a new piece. It hasn't been published anywhere.
We're very honoured. Thank you very much indeed. Joshua Sinclair, would you like to read your piece for us?
Sure. A lit cigarette in her fist, moonshine. A lit cigarette in her fist, moonshine. That appeared in Surrey Doro number 6, November-December 2021.
And now Laughing Waters isn't with us, but I have a little something from her. Traffic light, pausing my walk, the red dragonfly. Traffic light, pausing my walk, the red dragonfly. And that's from our own journal from autumn 2021. Next we have Lorraine A. Padden. Lorraine, welcome. Let's have your poem.
Thank you so much. Wolf Moon, papering over the windows for the Ave Maria. Wolf Moon, papering over the windows for the Ave Maria.
I think that's an original piece or an unpublished piece too, isn't it?
Yes, written a couple of weeks ago in response to what's going on in Ukraine right now.
Yeah, very moving. Thank you. Nick Hoffman. Nick, can we hear your work?
Sure, no problem. After midnight, the scent of fallen leaves welcomes me home. After midnight, the scent of fallen leaves welcomes me home. And that was in Modern Haiku, issue 53-1.
That's funny. Just hearing your voice, it's like your voice welcomes me home because I grew up with the Irish voices in my home. Thank you very much. Richard Bailey is next. Richard, welcome. Please do read us your poem.
Thank you. This is an early poem that I wrote that was published in the Haiku Journal for 2019, issue 62. Cloudless winter sky, shimmering sun points on snow, sculpted rabbit tracks. Cloudless winter sky, shimmering sun points on snow, sculpted rabbit tracks.
I think you said, Richard, this was one of your first published pieces.
It was also one of the first 50 haiku I wrote.
That's quite amazing because when I look back on my first efforts, they're awfully long and wordy and probably not really haiku. So that was a great start. Thanks, Richard. And last but not least, Sherry Grant. Thank you so much for being with us because it's very early in the morning where you are. Can we hear your work?
Mystery of Runaway Cookies. The mice did it. Mystery of Runaway Cookies. The mice did it. This was first published in Haiku in Action Week 40, 2021, October the 7th.
Thanks, Sherry. That's very, very funny. Thank you. Thanks to all of you for reading us your work. And now we're going to hear Drinking Moonrise.
Folding chairs after her memorial. Evening downpour.
At the repast, my shoes still wet from the grass.
Mourners move away, sun and moon together now, voices drift.
A blackbird singing deeper into the night.
Insomnia, spinning the White Album until dawn.
Buddha's sunken eyes won't shut off that bright light. Crimson silk curtains sway in the soft breeze. Rowan berries.
Dancing over the abyss.
A rhythm of maple leaves before the fall.
I wipe cobwebs from the rusty rake.
A ringtone in the tree, only a starling.
Golden hour, a horizon set on fire.
Plum wine, drinking moonrise from your lips.
1001 Nights slowly fills the Big Dipper.
Flooding the eyes in a cosmic blur. Memories.
All the tiny flakes of snow.
Shifting winds, volcanic ash settles on the cobblestones.
A lizard slithers this way and that. A woman recites a sutra, early morning mist.
Waiting for a train that never arrives.
A cricket song, holding up the walls in the empty hall.
Amaryllis stalks, blooms on antique wallpaper.
Determination without emotion. Scentless.
A faded boutonniere in her jewelry box.
Rich blacks, pearly whites, sharing the wedding album with her granddaughter.
A smartphone snap, a crunch of crisps.
First kiss, the taste of popcorn.
30 pieces of silver in the pocket of Judas.
Sunflower seeds stuck in uncombed beard, a weeping cough.
Escape from darkness to brilliant sunshine. Hustle and bustle overwhelm the senses. Vertigo.
Black Friday. The storm lasts all weekend.
Under the duvet, I listen to the wind, to the rain.
Karma unravels, back to the beginning.
Endless troubles, driftwood under the bridge.
Old friends gather around the table once more.
So now I'd like to ask you a little question about how you got on with the Renku. How was it for you? But my first question has to go to Nick. Nick, Drinking Moonrise. Why did you settle on that as a title?
Well, I wanted to take a title from one of the lines in the poem. And Joshua had a great haiku in the poem about plum wine and drinking moonrise. And I just kind of evoked the idea of a group of friends sitting around in the nighttime drinking wine or sake or beer or whatever, and drinking too much but having a great time, and maybe like the old Renku parties, you know, where people would compose verses like this. I just thought it was appropriate, and I liked that it was slightly surreal. The idea of drinking moonrise,
Yes.
kind of romantic, and just the way that the poetry you kind of are breaking out of, you know, the normal run of things into other realms.
Yes.
So I just thought that encapsulated all that. So.
Oh, great idea. Thank you. Thank you for that. And how did you all get on working with others in the Renku? I think, Eric, you had a point you wanted to make.
Well, I think most people think of writing as a solitary activity, including myself. I've always thought of it as fairly solitary. And I really welcome the opportunity to work in a group. And it's quite challenging. I found myself responding perhaps to key words in the preceding haiku. That's the way I went about it. But I really appreciated working with others.
Yes, it's interesting. Richard, how did you get on?
Well, I was pretty unsure of myself because I had never participated in a Renku before. So after I wrote my first poem, I asked Nick for some feedback on it, and he was kind enough to do that for me. And that helped me to both to feel that I was on the right track and that I would probably be okay. You know, it was also very, as far as working with other people, it was really nice to, as the poem went along, to go through it, not only to check to make sure you weren't using a noun that had been used already, but also to get I wasn't sure whether we were supposed to be telling a story or not. And I thought there was a story evolving. And I tried to go with that too, to sort of have a, in addition to just having the switch and the commonality parts, I also was trying to make it part of the whole that mattered.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's an interesting one. I think technically we're not supposed to be telling a story in this, but I think most of the Renkus that I've enjoyed reading have got some train of thought, some story flowing through them. And the other thing I quite like about them is that I think Jane Reichhold speaks of them as something like being at a dinner party where, you know, it starts off really quiet and slow, and then it, you know, as the drink flows, it gets sort of the conversations get very interesting and so on. And I just love that way of the Renku. I think, Lorraine, you wanted to say something a little bit about the social or the social history of the Renku.
Yeah, I mean, it's this wonderful sort of group creative activity, and placing it at a dinner table or in a room back in when it was popularized in Japan in the 19th century, it became this event where the sake would flow and poets would come up with verses to outdo what came before, but take it in a new creative direction. And so, yes, stories, I think, are automatically woven and generated out of that group collaboration. And it's just really interesting to think that this is a centuries old art form that we're now bringing to the West. And by the gift of this technology, we can all collaborate together from around the world to create this piece. And we don't have to be sitting, you know, passing the bottle, although that would also be really fun and could result in some really interesting poetry. But this, in my mind, this is just such an honor and a wonderful way to kind of keep that art, that form alive, and to make it truly universal.
Something I wanted to pick up on was I've been thinking about maybe putting together an improvised Renku to get 6 people or so in a room, or in a Zoom room maybe. As you say, this technology is great. We can do this around the world and just see what we can create in maybe an hour in terms of a Renku. So maybe, Lorraine, you can remind me of that at some point, because I know you and I work quite a lot together, because Lorraine is part of the editing team at Poetry P.
Oh, I would be delighted, Patricia. Thanks. Absolutely.
Right, keep my finger on the pulse on that one then, Lorraine. We'll do that. And Sherry, I know you do a lot of Renga or Renku. Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, I write a lot of Renge with friends because I was invited to actually give a presentation at HSA last conference last year. That was only about a few weeks after I started writing Renge, and I was like, wow, I was like really honored and surprised. So I started inviting so many people to write Renge with me as practice and around the world. And eventually I was able to deliver it, and I just developed a liking to it, because as a chamber musician myself, I find the collaboration quite amazing thing to do, especially across the world. And you sharpen your own skills while you're doing that, and all the shifts and linking. It's just like chamber music. You take that, you respond to what the others give to you, and then it's sometimes quite unexpectedly, something wonderful just happens.
I think that's another joy of working, because as we demonstrated at the beginning, you all have very different voices, and I think it's sometimes quite hard to work together when you have so many different voices. And yet, even though somebody will throw something at you that you're not expected, you can invariably come up with something interesting at the end of it. It's super. And it's how interesting that as a musician, you find that experience is similar.
Yes, I think all arts are actually linked.
Yeah, I'm not creative enough. That's my problem then. And Joshua, when we were talking before we started recording this, you said something very interesting about the linking and shifting. Tell us, perhaps you'd like to elaborate on that.
Sure. I didn't always struggle to link. I feel like I was always able to find something in the prior verses that I could dig into. But the shifting was more difficult for me, because you're trying to go not just away from the one verse prior, but also away from all the other prior verses. And there are many times I would, write out a couple verses, and as I was going back, I had inadvertently backlinked, and ended up having to discard a lot of work that may have been good work, but simply didn't fit the Renku.
Mm-hmm. Nick and I have done a little bit of work on Renku. We didn't get very far with it, Nick, did we? If I remember rightly. But
we got a few verses in, and then we've kind of stalled. But I'm sure we'll pick it up again.
We may well pick it up again. But I think what we decided was that the verses that we'd written didn't go to waste, because they were good verses in and of themselves, and they could be usefully used elsewhere. Well, we didn't lose them, Nick. I think
Yeah.
I would just like to ask you to read the Renku again. Drinking Moonrise.
Folding chairs after her memorial. Evening downpour.
At the repast, my shoes still wet from the grass.
Mourners move away. Sun and moon together now. Voices drift.
A blackbird singing deeper into the night.
Insomnia, spinning the White Album until dawn.
Buddha's sunken eyes won't shut off that bright light. Crimson silk curtains sway in the soft breeze. Rowan berries.
Dancing over the abyss.
A rhythm of maple leaves before the fall.
I wipe cobwebs from the rusty rake.
A ringtone in the tree. Only a starling.
Golden hour, a horizon set on fire.
Plum wine, drinking moonrise from your lips.
1001 nights slowly fills the Big Dipper.
Flooding the eyes in a cosmic blur. Memories.
All the tiny flakes of snow.
Shifting winds, volcanic ash settles on the cobblestones.
A lizard slithers this way and that. A woman recites a sutra. Early morning mist.
Waiting for a train that never arrives.
A cricket song, holding up the walls in the empty hall.
Amaryllis stalks, blooms on antique wallpaper.
Determination without emotion. scentless.
A faded boutonniere in her jewelry box.
Rich blacks, pearly whites, sharing the wedding album with her granddaughter.
A smartphone snap, a crunch of crisps.
First kiss, the taste of popcorn.
30 pieces of silver in the pocket of Judas.
Sunflower seeds stuck in uncombed beard, a weeping cough.
Escape from darkness to brilliant sunshine. Hustle and bustle overwhelm the senses. Vertigo.
Black Friday. The storm lasts all weekend.
Under the duvet, I listen to the wind, to the rain.
Karma unravels. Back to the beginning.
Endless troubles, driftwood under the bridge.
Old friends gather around the table once more.
It was great. Thank you very much. And I have to thank you all, not just for creating this lovely piece of work, but for finding the time to come and talk to us today. I'm going to paraphrase Michael Dillon Welsh here, who said that creating links and shifts between two often fragmentary parts is perhaps the most difficult art that haiku has to offer, but also its greatest reward. And I really hope you found creating this magical piece of work was its own reward. Thank you all very, very much.